found this so disconcerting. My daughter will tell you, I'm usually pretty firm about what I believe. I have an opinion, and I don't mind sharing it, and I don't mind debating it. With this movie, I watched it, and I came away, and I'm finding myself, when it's time to say how I feel about it, I'm hitting a wall. I'm afraid. It's like I'm afraid to say. I don't know what to say, and that's not me. And I'm trying to. I guess the reason I'm here tonight, I'm trying to figure out why. Why am I resistant to say I think this about this movie? Why is that? And it may go back to what you said about Spike Lee, with the perception that only certain people can tell the story. Maybe only certain people can have. And we can all have opinions, but it is just unusual for me to be in a quandary. I don't think I'm domineering. I just think I'm determined and have strong opinions. But with this one, I can't get past that spot. So,
do you think it has to do with the racial side of it, being concerned with offending certain people by giving your opinion?
I don't know. I think part of it, I've never been a big Quentin Tarantino fan. I have a son-in-law who is. So this was my first deep exposure to Quentin Tarantino, other than on the periphery. So the gratuitous violence, I just kind of went, okay, that's part of the deal. But with this one, I think personally, because I've come from such a different past than where I am now, that I don't know if my opinions about this movie are going to come from my past or from where I've grown to. I don't know. But boy, it's odd for me to be so, just like I can't get my mind around what I think about it.
I don't think you're the only one in that position, especially for people who aren't black. When I have those conversations, a lot of people are kind of hesitant. Even my wife was saying people at her job, certain people are hesitant to speak on certain things. And I can't speak for anyone, but it sounds like it's probably those barriers of not wanting to offend anyone, not wanting to. Sometimes we don't say certain things because it may make us reveal certain things about our own thought process, and that's not a good or bad. I mean, hopefully it's a positive thing, because once you do, accept and express those things, it gives you something to build off of. So, and that's part of the point of this too. Hopefully it brings people together in an environment where you do feel like I can sit down with people, and if I'm not sure, I can talk to people who are not going to be completely judgmental and understand, like, there's reasons why I'm twisted about where I stand, and there's reasons why I'm conflicted, and maybe you can walk away from here tonight, maybe not with the answer, but with a better view, perspective, and others as well. And I think that's another good thing, because some people are only looking at this movie from their point of view, and getting to hear what other people think, it opens up the possibilities of conversation and the ability to be comfortable in conversation.
When my husband told me about the movie, I'm like, oh, another Roots. And I don't know if that was a bad thing, meaning I'm a black woman. I didn't want to see another Roots movie. But I saw the movie. I loved it. I wasn't offended. I love Quentin Tarantino. I'm a Quentin Tarantino fan. But after I saw the movie, I posted on Facebook. I loved it. Everyone should see it. My coworkers and I are friends on Facebook, and I work with a diverse group of people. And I was telling my husband that one of the ladies that I work with that I'm really close with, she's Caucasian, and she was like, oh, I saw that you saw the movie. And she's probably in her late 50s. And she was like, is it okay for us to talk about it? And I'm thinking, one, we're close, like we're really close. And secondly, like, did she really have to ask me if it was okay for us to talk about the movie? But as we're talking about it, I'm seeing the humor side of it, and I'm talking about the graphics and the action. And she was like, but wasn't it sad when he got ate by the dog? Or wasn't it sad when, he showed her whip? And she was talking more so about the slavery side of it, as I was talking more so about the humor and the funny side of it. So it was a good conversation for both of us.
Growing up where I grew up, I saw somebody die when I was like 8, right? So people who didn't come from that world, the first time I saw somebody see someone get shot who had never witnessed this other than TV, it blew their mind. And for me, it was like, oh, I mean, that's a common thing where I came from, what I saw. And it's the same thing with this. Like, for us, we've been dealing with, well, some of us have been dealing with the issue of slavery since we were created, pretty much. Because in some form or fashion, what happened then is still affecting where we are now. And for me, for black people, that was the part I wanted people to grab, black people to grab, and white people. I wanted everyone to grab and understand those 500 or so years, you can't just wash it away because there's an Obama. You can't just take it away because we have people making X amount of millions playing basketball or football. You can't take it away because Waka Flocka raps about dumb things and gets paid to do it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't mean that we're free. There's still a system that was written and structured a long time ago that has not quite been completely worked into a situation that makes it equal for everybody. And so
I was going to speak to the issue of, you know, telling the story from a black perspective and how that's just not seen a lot in Hollywood, and I think that has a lot to do with how a movie like Django is going to be perceived, because you have like films like Boss Nigga, what is it? The Ghost of Nigga Charlie. Like, if you look at those films and then you look at Django, he takes whole scenes out of these films, and to me, somebody like, you know, that nigga Charlie was more Django than Django, because to me, even though I may have issues with the film itself, like I have issues with Django, I think it was more realistic to what a black person, the way a black person in that time would have reacted. You know, to, for instance, the scene where he's riding into the town on a horse with the white guy, and the reaction that happened. Like, to me, that's a scene right out of those blaxploitation films. And I think the issue is that when black filmmakers or when black writers have their perspective and put it out there, it's not supported. You know what I mean? And sometimes we don't even support it. Our own community doesn't support it. And there's just a need for us to continually tell our story so that there are diverse views, because we're not monolithic people. Just because, you know, one person might not like Django doesn't mean that all black people should boycott the movie. You know what I mean? So I think that the more important thing is the dialogue that's created around stuff like that. But again, like, the issue for me is, why did it take so long for a movie like Red Tails to get made? You know what I mean? And when we tell those stories, why aren't our movies supported and promoted in the same way? And it leads to, you know, the way we look at art reflects a lot of how we view each other, you know?
You gotta remember too, Red Tails was done by George Lucas.
Exactly.
You know, but nobody gave him hell like they give him Tarantino. But another thing too is, like, Django is a remake. It's a remake of another movie, with exception, like, it's different in the sense of the content, but it's still a Western. So we still have to remember, this is someone else's version of a movie that was already made prior to. So we still have to have that action incorporated. But at the end of the day, like I said, to me, like I said, the movie was genius. Spike Lee to me is a racist. You want to be honest? I think he is personally, and he's offended. And I say that for the simple fact that if a black director had did it, it would not have the controversy around it. He'd probably been the first person in the theater. You know what I'm saying? Like, truth be told, because in some cases, like, if something were to happen, like a situation happened to me personally, it may be best for a third party to tell it, because I may be too personal. I might have too personal of a connection, and it might bore you. Like, granted, when I walked in the theater and I sat down and looked around, I saw, like, yo, Asian, white, black, and I'm like, yo, this is awesome. Like, don't we want to bring attention to this issue? So who cares who directed? Why does it matter? But, you know, on Spike Lee's end, if he really wanted to do this movie, he could have did it. Mel Gibson did Passion of Christ on his own money. So Spike Lee could have did it if he wanted to. But the point is, at the end of the day, just like most America, people are just oversensitive. Just too sensitive. And I think, like, Spike Lee, just like the gentleman was saying, Spike Lee saw this and was like, oh man, this is like front row at the Knicks. Let me say something. I'm on the radio, yo, everybody calling, everybody want to know how Spike Lee feel about it. Because Spike Lee is like, you know, he got the biggest mouth in Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? One of them. But at the end of the day, like, he shouldn't be, as an artist himself, he shouldn't be offended at all. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, if you are offended, it's probably because something real was said or something real happened. And it just got to you that way. You never been offended. You're more offended by the truth than if someone lies. People lie to you to save your feelings. When people tell you the truth, you feel something. So it's kind of like, yeah, you know, dude got eaten up by the dogs, whatever, but it's kind of like, yo, what you mad about? It's really happened. Don't ignore it. You're already mad because people are ignoring it. But now you're mad because they put it on the screen. And now everybody see it.
what kind of slavery movie is not gonna have nigga in it? To me, as far as Quentin Tarantino go, this is the best form, the best used nigga that he's ever done. as far as Quentin Tarantino, the director. Because when I saw Pulp Fiction, I almost was like, yo, I don't even like Quentin Tarantino anymore. Just because the way I felt when I watched the movie, which segues into this next topic, which is the part where the Mandingo Warriors was fighting, and you knew he was grabbing the dude's face, and then you heard all the action. You didn't see it, but you heard it, and then they showed a quick scene of the guy's face, and you see that he had gouged his eyes out with his thumbs. To me, that was the whole point of going into the film, because it's just like we were saying, it's art. He could have showed him really being on top of the dude with his fingers and his eyes and everything, but he let you feel it by not seeing it.
For me, the parts that I was quietest on were the Mandingo part and the part with Leonardo DiCaprio when he was cutting the skull. And the reason why was because I feel like I have a pretty thorough knowledge of what has happened with enslaved Africans and African Americans. So that part, I just never thought of it. I never thought that, it makes it makes perfect sense when you look at the history and you look at the brutality and the ideal that, this is chattel rather, that they did the fighting. But to see that part of it, that was my squirm in my seat moment, because it just kept going on and on and on. The same thing with Leonardo DiCaprio and the whole ideal of the skull. Because it reminds you, if you didn't know it, and it teaches you, if you didn't know, that was, you had scientists and researchers saying Black African people are not really people. You had them saying their intelligence, they would never, not even that, the average Black person isn't smarter than the average white person, but that it's a whole race, that we're a separate race, and that we're just not even on the same, there's no correlation between the two. And so I think those parts had to be it had to get you to that moment where you had to squirm, because it makes you, I think the problem, and one of the reasons why I think maybe, sir, that you were feeling some kind of way about not being able to understand how you're feeling, is because we're told to, that happened back in slavery times, don't talk about it now. That happened back then, white people feel that way, Black people feel that way. You have some Black people who are so proud to say that my ancestors were not slaves, and to kind of look down on other people in a way. And I think it will always be an uncomfortable thing, because we have never really dealt with it as Americans. We feel like people were free, that's the end of the story. They don't even kind of brush aside the whole civil rights movement and everything else. But it's really just, what's the big deal? Because there's accountability that needs to still happen. Because when you think about it, I guess for that plantation scene, and you have all these, skipping and, I can't even think of their names, only seen it once. But, we have to remember there are people who, their mother's mother, their mother's mother never were free. Were snatched from their country, from their people, from their land, and brought here and were made to work, not given an education. Everything that people who were enslaved tried to do was constantly, they were cut down at the ankles, constantly, literally and physically, mentally, everything. And so for me, it was just, we need to talk about this. We need to get those stories. We have, generation of people who are dying, who haven't told their stories still. There are stories still that people don't even feel comfortable to say, and they're 80, 85 years old, that they don't feel comfortable saying, because they still feel like, something's going to happen to me if I tell this story, or it's just too personal. I think and I think that, Spike saying that my ancestors, I would be upsetting to my ancestors to support this movie. I think it's the other way around. He has it backwards. The story needs to be told, no matter who tells the story. Now, obviously, it needs to be told correctly. It needs to be told with accuracy. But it needs to be told. And there's just so many more stories, like a Django. And I'm sure the real life version is way more entertaining, has way more levels of depth to it than what we see and what we have on film. But I think we need to stop being afraid.
The reason that is because we're still here. that's probably why you feel the way you do. Like, slavery was an issue, blacks were freed, we still had civil rights. We're still living with white people, whereas like, you know, but as far as like Holocaust, Germany, Nazis don't, and Jewish people don't have to live together now. You know, American Indians and white people, there's just so few of them. They don't intersperse with white. So I mean, the Chinese and the Japanese, they don't live together. So it's almost like I can understand your trepidation, because it's almost like we're right here. So if you have an opinion about it and you want to say something about it, we're literally in your face to, you know, maybe you fear the confrontation of it or how we're going to feel about it. But other people don't have that. So that's something we have to consider. So, yeah.
Yeah, just the skull scene. I have to say that scene sent chills up my spine. Like that scene, I said that I didn't really go into it with a lot of emotion. That particular scene, it made me squirm for a different reason. I think it made me squirm more so because of the dramatic effect. Because I was more so feeling the scene on the creative level. You know what I mean? Like I just felt like Leonardo DiCaprio represented everything evil, everything bad, everything that you could curse with slavery with that one scene. And, you know, if I had to take anything away from that, if there was this one scene that would make me feel emotional about the topic at hand, it would be that one scene. And then on top of it, just maybe concocting some emotion from people. Just on a creative level, the way it was written was just like dope. It was just on another level to me. But I just wanted to comment on that one scene. Though.
The thing I liked most about the movie was how he depicted the levels of power in the movie and the visualization of power. That's what when I left the movie and I saw it again, I was like, that was so deep. That some people are put into a certain place of power, and on one end it's wonderful to see someone in that power, and then on the other end it's so much abused, and then that person in power is a victim, and then they victimize all the people they're supposed to be in charge of. And I thought that was a great way to show how people are trapped, you know.
Referring to the Samuel Jackson.
Samuel Jackson, Django, the housemaids, how you are forced to do it. And if you're not the first generation and you have to be the third generation, then it's perpetually living. So it's what you do. And it's a level of power, but you're also a victim, because at any moment you are still a child. And that was another part of the movie. You are just a child. The language, you're a child, how they did it. So I thought that was wonderful. I thought actually it was magnificent. You know, Samuel Jackson's role, I mean, you could throw up on it. It was so good, I thought. But there was a level of power that he was like two different people. Like, I'm black, but I'm not black. You're a nigga, and I'm not a nigga. I'm not white, but I'm a cousin or a family member. And I have certain privileges to speak. I can say stuff to them that none of you can. And if you want to say something, you have to say it to me. And it's a power thing. Right. They have to live under the power, but it's twisted, you know. And I mean, I love that. That's the best thing I got out of the movie. There's one thing I didn't like that had nothing to do with the movie per se. In the movie is how society and celebrities look at it and the people. I was appalled, and I may be incorrect. So the young people, everybody, y'all correct me, because I haven't been doing any more reading on it in tabloids or anything. I'm appalled that Jamie Foxx, Samuel Jackson, and some other people have not been nominated at the top levels of these awards. And I did say this in the car, and I was pissed. I said, if this was the top Western guy that's still living, he was on the Republican thing, what's his name? Clinton. I said this was Clinton's move, and he was walking down the street and get on that horse. He would have 9 Oscars, you know, for Jamie Foxx, you know. And I was appalled about that. And the other reason I was appalled, because I did hear something to a friend in Los Angeles about the NAACP, kind of balking at it. The same thing they did with Color Purple. You know, I thought 5 people in Color Purple should have got Oscars, Emmys, whatever you know. And just because we have a deep-seated shame, we're not going to do that. Because if they elevate this movie to all these Oscars, and Jamie Foxx get an Oscar for Best Actress, and Timmy Jackson gets for supporting actress, and the young lady gets it for Washington gets it for, we're going to be screaming and carrying on. And that really hurts my heart, because at the end of the day, it's a movie. They're acting. They're so good at it. They're so believable, that's the thing that got me. But I thought how he did the power thing, and we live like today. We live in that today, that different power structure that you have to live under, and you're still a victim. You're still a victim.